So thanks for coming, everyone. My name is Jensen Harris, and I'm the Group Program Manager of the Office User Experience team. We're the team that builds the user interface for all of the Office programs. So why am I here today? Well, Office 2007, which came out a little over a year ago, introduced a radically different user interface for Office. How many of you have used Office 2007 who are here today? Good. So what I'm going to be here today is not to talk about the next version of Office, but actually to talk about the story of how we built Office 2007. And I'm going to do it not so much by talking through bullet points, but through showing some prototypes, telling some stories, and telling you a little bit about the design process that we used. So hopefully it'll be kind of informal and kind of fun, and you guys will be seeing stuff today that literally has never been seen outside of Microsoft. These are prototypes we've never showed anyone before. So just so you sort of have in mind sort of how long the Office 2007 product cycle was, it started back in August of 2003, which is when I joined the team. That's right after we shipped Office 2003 and we started thinking about Office 2007. And it took us just over 3 years to get from sort of the initial, let's start working on this, until it was shipped or released to manufacturing, as we say. And I'm going to start the story back in August of 2003. So put yourself in a 2003 mindset. We're going to flashback back to summer of 2003. And when people talked about Office in the middle of 2003, there were two words that came up again and again and again. Good enough. The version of Office I have is, well, it's good enough. People only use the same 5% of Office. Everyone only needs a few features. Everything I ever needed was an Office 95 or 97 or 2000. That number actually keeps moving up. But there's sort of this sense that Office was done. Yet whenever we went and talked to actual people who used the product day in, day out, they showed real frustration, and they told us a different story. They'd say, well, I know there must be a way to do this, but I can't figure out how. Or Office is so powerful, I just don't feel like I can use it very well, and I'd be better at my job if I could. And what we began to realize in the months leading up to Office 2007 was that the user interface of the product was actually failing our users, that we vastly overestimated how well our current user interface was working. We added new features to the product, every version, but honestly, hardly anyone found them, hardly anyone used them. Office seemed increasingly complicated every year. People would say the next version is just more complicated than the previous one. And people actually were optimistic about the possibility of getting things done, but they assumed that we would never change Office. Office was done. And so this is sort of how we felt about good enough. And so we made it our goal in Office 2007 to get rid of good enough. What would it take to get past good enough? That was sort of our mantra. So before we look forward at Office 2007, I always think it makes sense to look backwards to see how you got there. And so I want to take you through a trip through ye old museum of Office past. And as we start at the oldest exhibit we have in the museum, be careful not to get too close to it, we have Word for Windows 1.0. Anyone in here remember or use this version? Wow. Oh, sorry. No, this was the first version of Word that we ever built for Windows. It was designed to run on 640 by 480, and it had a set of menus and it had 2 toolbars. And if you drop down the Format menu at that time, this is what you would have seen. That's right, 5 items on it. So it's pretty easy to understand how this program works when it has such limited functionality. The first reasonably successful version of Word for Windows was Word 2.0. And this was a version where we actually were able to dig up the first specification that we ever built or that was ever written for Word 2.0. And it was written late in Ronald Reagan's second term. This is a product that was designed back in 1989. Yet look at the top level menu bar. File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, Tools, Table, Window, Help. Exactly the same menus that are in Office 2003. Think about how much the world of computing changed between 1989, when this program was designed, and now, yet the user interface, the menus were locked in place. at that point. Now you'll see as we move towards more and more recent versions of Office, make sure that you look at the user interface additions that we add in each version and the number of toolbars. So by Word 6.0, we've already jumped from 2 toolbars to 8 toolbars. And as we make our way into the 32-bit world of Word 95, you'll see that we're already up to 9 toolbars. Now, if you wonder how come we only went from 8 toolbars to 9 toolbars on Word 95, well, it was actually a split release. A very small part of our team was working on Office 95, while the much bigger team was working on Office 97. Now, there's one UI feature that was introduced in Word 95 that I think personifies the modern word processor, which is red squiggle underlining for spell checking, which is a great feature. But like I said, most of the team was off working on something else. And that something else was the circus known as Office 97. Wow, look at all the UI that we added. So we went from 9 toolbars to 18 toolbars. We added toolbars on all sides of the screen. Drag and drop stuff everywhere. Hierarchical multi-level IntelliSense. We've got it all. And of course, the most loved and brilliant piece of UI component we've ever added to Office, or maybe any program, the lovable, useful Clippy. And Clippy, the Office assistant, is such a good piece of UI that it's actually the only piece of UI that ever made its way sort of into mainstream comedy.
Now, come on, Bill, you really got to buck up. You're actually getting off easy compared to what the government did to Clippy, that annoying paperclip icon that pops up on your Microsoft Word software all the time. This is true. Their government's been pretty tough on Clippy. Check out this chilling footage of what the government did to Clippy earlier today. That's not right.
No. So there was a lot of UI in Office 97. And although it was a blockbuster release, one word we found started being talked about with Office every time the press wrote a story about Office, starting in Office 97. And that word was bloat. Office is bloated. The Office apps are bloated with features. And part of this is traced directly to the new UI components that we added in Office 97. And so in 1999, we started work on Word 2000. And Word 2000 began the march to do what we called, get it? Reduce the perception of bloat. And so the first of the features that we did to reduce the perception of bloat was something called IntelliMenus. And the way IntelliMenus worked was this. Instead of actually reducing the complexity of the product, well, we could hide some of it from you. So what we do is we would take a random set of menu items and we would hide them. And then if you hovered over one of the menus for long enough or clicked the little arrow at the bottom, then we would open up the menu and show you the rest of them. And even better, we don't open them up at the bottom, so you can't just scan halfway through the list and then hit it and scan the rest. We actually put them in the middle. So you have to go all the way back up to the top and scan all the way down again. And even better, we'll keep changing the things that are on the small and the long menus based on your usage. The computer will auto-optimize it based on your use. And so that was IntelliMenus, which was not the best thing that we ever did. We also, in order to reduce the perception of bloat, instead of having the 2 toolbars that stacked nicely on top of one another, we rammed them up into one line, even though no one's monitor had enough room to show them on one line. And what we did was we chose a random set of them based on usage to throw away. And you had to click the little icon on the side to find the rest of them. So this was inherently very unpredictable. It led to lots of confusion. And it didn't actually reduce people's feeling of complexity with Office at all. Honestly, all it did was make the screenshots look a little nicer. So that was sort of where we were in Office 2000 in terms of reducing the perception of bloat. And to be honest, it didn't really work. And so when it didn't work, we did whatever user interface designers do when they run out of ideas. And that's, well, we invented a new rectangle, introducing the task pane. The task pane the little rectangle on